Hi, this is Ike from IkesOutdoors.com. Today I want to talk a little bit about just basic tools that you're going to need to do your own bow work. And we're not talking about any kind of tools you're going to need for doing shop work or changing strings or anything like that. This is just the tools that you're going to need to buy a bow and get that bow home and start shooting that bow. And that's basically all that we're going to talk about. Just some real basic tools for archery. Okay, so the number one tool that anyone who's going to do their own archery work is going to need is going to be a set of Allen wrenches. You can use these to put on your sights, you're going to use them to put on your rest, you're going to use them to adjust your rest, your quiver. If you're going to change your draw stops or your modules in your bow, you're going to need a set of Allen wrenches. Anything that has a bolt on it pretty much is going to be adjusted with a set of Allen wrenches. So I've got a set of these Elkland here. These are pretty good quality ones. And I like to buy a little bit. They're fairly affordable. They're not set Allen wrenches isn't real high. And if you get these, they're not going to twist off when you're in the bolt. They're not going to round the edges off. So these are pretty good set Allen wrenches. Nice and portable. I can slip them in my pocket when I go to the range, and I've got them there with me, or I can throw them in my bow case. I've got a couple sets of these, and they work out real well for that. So good set of Allen wrenches here. And these ones here are just some cheap ones. I went down to Harbor Freight and picked these up. Good set of T-handle ones, just for getting into some spots and just get a little bit more torque on them. But you can do without these. These are just a nice-to-need kind of thing to have. But definitely get you a good set like this. And these ones here are, let's see, 5/64 through a quarter. And that does almost everything that I can imagine. The only thing that it doesn't do is like the football clamp on the ripcord rest that I've got. It doesn't have one small enough to get down in there, but most of the time if you got an odd size like that, something really small, they'll send an Allen wrench with it. So that is the number one tool that an archer is going to need, is a good set of Allen wrenches. So if you're going to go do your own work, get you a set of Allen wrenches. Another thing that you're going to need is a set of knocking pliers. So when you set your knock, you can either, if you're going to use a metal knock, you can squeeze that thing down, or a set of loop pliers. If you're going to use a loop, you'll need to learn how to tie that loop, and then you'll need these to get that thing good and stretched out and get it pulled down tight. If you don't want to buy a set of these, another real good thing to do is take you a set of needle nose pliers, and these don't have it, but take you a die grinder or something, a saw, hacksaw or something like that, and put you a notch in here. Just put you a nice little bevel in here, and then you can put that on your string, and you can separate those, and you can pull that loop tight. So it basically does the same thing this does for a lot cheaper, but be sure if you're going to do that to get all them burrs off there and keep it nice and clean, because you're going to be pulling on your string. You don't want any sharp edges on there. Pull that out and cut your string. So definitely be sure to clean that up if you're going to do that right there. You may even want to put some tape over the top of it or something like that and get that groove down in there. So that'll work if you're going to stretch your strings. You can pick these up at just about any bow shop. I think they're 14 or 15 bucks, but you don't necessarily have to have them. Real good handy tool though if you do going to pick one up. If you're going to use a regular knock, you can get a set of knocking pliers, or you can get a set like this, which I prefer these because they got the bigger handle on them. I can really torque that thing down. And about the only other thing that I can recommend is a bow square. If you're going to be, to help you establish a knocking point and stuff like that. Now, the one tools that you're going to have if you're going to do this is the first two that we mentioned. You don't have to have this bow square. You don't need a laser square, nothing like that. The reason I've got this is because when I had my shop, I would set this up for people, and that would be a basic setup is what it would be. And that's the way most shops are going to set things up for you. Is they're going to set them up. Here's everything's square, everything's level, everything's where it's supposed to be. Now, when you go home to tune your bow, you may have to move some things for you and for your style of shooting. So tools like this are nice to have if you're going to be doing something like that in shop. But for at home, you don't need stuff like this. The two tools that I use the most that are almost never in my toolbox are my Allen wrenches and these knocking pliers, or these stretchers there. And the reason for that is when I get a bow, I'll take my rest and I'll put my rest on, and I'll eyeball it and I'll center it up and get it lined up with the two holes on my riser, and I'll put my knocking point on there and I'll get it kind of loose and stuff like that. And I start out with a metal knock instead of a string loop, and I'll get everything kind of eyeballed and set up just using my Allen wrenches. My sight pins the same way. I know about where they're supposed to be. I'll drop them down and get everything kind of set up like that. And then from there, what I'll do is I'll tune my bow. And that'll tell me by paper tuning it, walk back tuning it, and broadhead tuning it, which you can find more videos on how to do that on our website. It'll tell me whether my rest is left or right's off, whether my up and down's off, whether my knocking point needs to come down or what it needs to do, whether my arrow's too stiff, too weak, or whatever. But once I get that bow tuned out, I'll have everything locked in place, and then if I'm going to use my knock, if I'm going to stay with it instead of a string loop, I'm done. And the only thing I've used is this and my knocking pliers. And then if you're going to use a string loop, you'll go back and you can tie your string loop on once you get that point established. And the reason I don't start out with a string loop when I'm tuning it is because the knock's a whole lot easier to move up and down. Once you get your string loop on, get it tight and get it set in, it's a little bit tougher to move it up and down. So that's what I do. I start with everything eyeballed. I don't use any of these things like this or lasers or anything like that. I get everything eyeballed, everything looking good, and then I tune my bow. Like I said, we paper tune it, I walk back tune it, and then I broadhead tune it, and that gets everything lined up and down, left and right, and everything's in sync. And like I said before, if you've got a bow that can shoot 100 grain broadhead and gets the same point of impact as a 100 grain field point, you got your bow set up and you got her tuned. And I can do all that with this. And I don't even really need these knocking pliers if I'm going to do these expensive knocking pliers. If I'm going to do that, if you're going to use a knock, you can knock it down with a pair of pliers, or if you're going to use a loop, you can, like I said earlier, you can use these to stretch that out. So the #1 tool that you're going to need, set Allen wrenches. Go buy you a good set of Allen wrenches, the best that you can afford, and you can pretty much do almost all your archery work with that. Change your poundage, put your accessories on, change your draw modules, change your draw stops. Almost anything can be done with these Allen wrenches. So that's a little tip to help you guys out. Don't go out and spend a bunch of money. If you got the money to spend on archery equipment, go ahead and go out and buy it, and while you're there, buy 2 and send 1 to me just so I can have it. But if you're like me, go out and spend 14 or 15 bucks on a set of Allen wrenches, and you should be able to do just about anything you want to. This has been Ike from IkesOutdoors.com. Be sure to visit our website. We got more product reviews on there. Got a lot of good product reviews coming up in the future. A lot of good companies have signed on to work with us this year. Be sure to sign up for our newsletter, because there's some stuff in these videos, especially the product reviews, that I don't have time for in the product reviews. I'll get a little bit more in depth in our newsletter, talk a little bit more about them. And using our newsletter, I've got more time to spend with these products, and I can tell you, well, I found this that I didn't like about it, this that I don't like about it. So be sure to sign up for our newsletter, and that's on our website, IkesOutdoors.com. We appreciate you watching.